I'm Tammy Silvers of Tamarini's. Couple of minutes late for this Tune In Tuesday, but hey, I'm here. And if you're here, thanks so much for joining me. What we're looking at today are some faux curved piecing quilts. So what do I mean by faux curved piecing? Well, we know what curved piecing is, right? It's the piecing to create all of these curves. But let's face it, some people just really aren't into curve piecing, or they've tried it, they don't like it, or they're intimidated by it. I understand completely. Now, I love it. I love the challenge of it, but it does take a little bit more time. So I came up with a few faux curved piecing techniques. In other words, they mimic the look of curved piecing without all the fuss, without all the bother. So I'm going to show you some of those quilts today. And then later on in December, I'm going to do some demos. I'm going to show you how I actually create this curved look in these patterns. Now, hi Terry, thanks for joining. They use a variety of techniques. So all of these that you're going to see today are not using the same techniques. But like I said, in December, I'll do at least one demo on one of the techniques, and I'll sprinkle some in later on. If there's one that you especially want to see, be sure to drop that in the comments so I'll know what to prioritize on the demos coming up in December. All right, so let's get started. Now, I am going to start with some of the ones that I have hanging here on the quilt ladder, and then I'm going to show you some others. So the first one I want to share with you is Fate. Now, I've made Fate in two different fabric lines. I did it with this fabric line a few years ago, and this was actually in a magazine. Now, this quilt is ginormous, so I'm not going to hold it up, but I did want to hold it out and let you see. I absolutely love this color palette. These minty blues and then the cherry reds has very much a 40s vibe, don't you think? But you may have a hard time seeing where all the curves are. So I've got a smaller version that I did in batiks, and let me show that to you. So again, this is Fate, and you can see, I'll turn it sideways. Let's look at the curves. So this is very much a fan block, right? And we've got these lovely wedges with these curved edges. And traditionally, this background piece would be applique on. You would be piecing this curve to this curve. But on these, I kind of cheated a little bit and made it super, super simple. So love, love, love both versions. Now you can see on the batik version, my background is that lovely royal blue. And so those green fan blades show up very nicely against it. Now, if you want to see the full quilt, because I'm a little height challenged, so I can't hold the whole thing up for you. If you want to see the full quilt, it is on the website, so you absolutely can see the full version of Fate. But there you can see, and it's called Fate because, let's be honest, Fate has twists and turns, right? So this one does too. It meanders back and forth, but super, super easy to create that curved edge. All right, let's look at another one. This one is a completely different technique. This quilt is called After the Rain. So after it rains, everything blooms, right? Yeah, so I wanted to create something that captured that explosion of color. So I have these charming blooms. Aren't those just awesome, bright and happy? And they do look like it's curved piecing, right? But this is a super fun technique. Look at that. I love the little centers. Those little centers on the blooms just make me so happy. But this is a super fun technique, and it's definitely one that I have on the agenda to show you how I create these blooms. And it may not be like you think, okay? So this is After the Rain. And again, it uses a faux curved piecing technique to create those blooms. Super, super fun. All right, I got a couple of more to show you. This is an oldie but a goodie, and this one is called Dutch Windmills. And Dutch Windmills is another faux curved piecing technique. Now, isn't that fun? So here is our block, and you can see it looks like we have all of these curves to piece, but we really don't. And what seems counterintuitive is this is actually our base fabric, and our background fabric is what we add on top to create those fun pinwheels, or as I call them, Dutch windmills. Now, I've made this in a slew of sizes. The pattern has 3 sizes. I've made it in a lot of different colorways. So that was the first one that I made. I've done it again, same size quilt, but I did it in a white background. Isn't that bright and happy? This one just reminds me of jelly beans, but gives you a really good idea of what this can look like. And then I wanted to make it super small. So my windmills are chunky on this one. You're gonna see what I mean. And I'm gonna show you a skinny windmill. So this is the little baby version with its little sweet chunky windmills. Aren't those cute? And then I've got a big version hiding behind the big quilt. Now the big quilt that is hanging up here behind me, this is called Melon Blossom. I'm gonna move the ladder out of the way. So this is called Melon Blossom, and this is actually a reimagination of a vintage quilt. My husband and I were at his boss's hunting cabin, and he had this gorgeous feed sack quilt on the bed, and every block was scrappy. So every pumpkin seed was a different feed sack. It was absolutely charming. But for whatever reason, when I saw it, this is what I saw. These great big blooms. So I created these blooms by grouping my fabric colors and by arranging the pumpkin seeds to look like the blooms and to look like the stamens in the center of the flowers. And again, no curved piecing. You will be amazed at how easy this quilt is to make. Now, this is a super, super large one. So this is Melon Blossom. Now, there are 2 other versions of this, the baby sisters, if you will, Garden Stroll and Petite Blossom. So if you love the look of this, but you're like, I don't really want a bed-size quilt, Garden Stroll is a table runner version, and Petite Blossom is a large pillow cover. So you could practice the technique, try it out on a smaller project if you wanted to. Now, I promised you a larger version of Dutch windmills, and that's what I have behind the curtain. So this is the largest version of Dutch windmills. So you can see this is more of a truly a lap size quilt versus a crib quilt. And you can see the Dutch windmills are a little bit thinner, but again, using that faux curved piecing technique. So I just wanted to share some of these with you, give you a taste for what you could make without doing curved piecing. And then, like I said, I'm going to do some demos of some of these techniques. So I see that Terry is here. Marilyn is here. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate you showing up for the little mini trunk show. And be sure to leave in the comments what demos you would like to see, because I don't have a schedule yet for December. So I would love to know what trunk shows, what demos, what do you want to see? I think next week we are talking about paper piecing. And then the last one in November, I'm sharing some of my cave quilts, because I do a lot of project designs for Free Spirit using cave fabrics, which are super fun to work with, but sometimes a little challenging because there's a lot going on there, right? So we're going to look at some of the quilts I've made using his fabrics and how to deal with those super busy prints in a super fun way. So that's what's up for December, but I would love to hear from you. What would you like to see in December? What would you like to see in future episodes? So be sure to put that in the comments. And again, before I leave, if anyone has any questions, I'm looking at the camera right now. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. I'm going to give them just a minute because there is a slight delay. And Kathy, thanks for tuning in. And by the way, guys, you do know that later on today, if you missed part of this, if you want to go back and watch it, what was the name of that quilt? I really like that. I want to see that block and, look at it, give it a closer look. This will be posted on the Facebook page and you can come back and view it later on. Absolutely. All right, guys, well, that's all I had to share with you today. That was a mini trunk show on the faux curved piecing quilt. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some inspiration for your Sewing Tuesday, and I hope you'll come back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm going to be doing a paper piecing tips episode. So if there is any questions you have about paper piecing, be sure to message me or leave a comment on the Facebook page so I can go ahead and address some of those common questions in that episode next Tuesday. Until next time, happy stitching.